Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to bring you guys another character review, and who better to do than someone who I recently tier 2'd with a regular advancement ticket, my boy Yondu. So having played with Yondu a lot, especially in Shadowlands, I felt I wanted to update him to tier 2. I also wanted to do that for Extreme Alliance Battle Speed Day. So I thought, why not make a video detailing my review of the character, my thoughts, and the different things that you can do if you want to get tier 2 Yondu, and how to max him out if you do have tier 2 Yondu or you're going to get him there. So let's start with the pros and cons of Yondu. So Yondu, as a speed character, of course he suffers from that classic speed character syndrome where his stats are pretty low. However, I do have to say that for a speed character, Yondu is surprisingly tankier than some other speed characters, and part of that comes from his skills. He's got an iframe with his uniform, and his 5th skill, Ravager Strike, has immunity. As well, his leadership is pretty bad, but if you can make the most of him with another physical damage leadership, you can really crank up his damage that way. I find that Yondu is pretty fast to play. His skills are pretty intuitive. They animate well whether you have his original look or his uniform. His uniform doesn't add a lot of value as far as buying it goes for any kind of activation effects, but it does give you that 10% on the stats, and it has some skill changes. Overall, I think Yondu is an above average speed character. I don't think his tier 2 is particularly special outside of the fact that it gives an increase to your stats, and that it has some value and some function in Extreme Alliance Battle now that we've seen enough people testing it out. So let's get into the gear options for my man Yondu. We can see here that he's got physical attack and crit rate on his first two slots, which is good. The rest you just want to go physical attack or all attack. Then he's got physical defense and dodge. Not the greatest, but not the worst either. Again, you want to roll either physical or energy defense by level for the first 1 or 2 slots, and then you go all defense the rest of the way. His 3rd slot, fortunately, has HP rolled as the 2nd gear, so he does get that native help and generally more tankiness. The crit damage is nice as well for racking up higher scores in ABX, and you just want to roll HP by level for the first 2 and then HP the rest of the way. His 4th skill is actually very good. His 4th gear, I should say. It has defense penetration and skill cooldown, 2 very valuable stats. So once you have this rolled up to the max level, you want to go back out into the details page, and you want to check out where your Yondu stands as far as his ignore defense and his reduce cooldown duration. You want to max out, or you want to roll 4 on the 4th gear, whatever Yondu is missing. So in my case, I needed a little bit of skill cooldown to get to the cap of 50%. I needed a little bit of defense penetration, again, to get to the cap of 50%. And then I splashed on some crit damage because I had an extra slot available. But this is really where it's going to differ for everybody. I'd say probably stay away from crit rate and attack speed unless you're already very high on the first 3 stats, because you'll probably see a bigger benefit from skill cooldown and then defense penetration and then crit damage by investing in them first. But crit rate, there's an argument for, and attack speed as well if you've already got pretty insane bonuses from obelisks and stuff like that. Speaking of obelisks, this is probably close to what you want to have for your Yondu if you're gearing Yondu for Extreme Alliance Battle. The Frost Beast in Extreme Alliance Battle Speed Day Hero Mode has high dodge rate, so you want to have an ignore dodge obelisk equipped. The damage proc as well is excellent for Extreme Alliance Battle. It helps you crack 100,000 with most characters, and you'll see that as a pattern when people talk about Extreme Alliance Battle and the obelisks you need for everyone from Doctor Strange to Black Widow. It always has that damage proc. The main stat here on mine is recovery rate. It's not that great because I don't have a recovery ISO set for Yondu. Probably what would be better than that is like crit rate or crit damage, or if you need it, defense penetration is always good. You don't need any kind of resistances in terms of snare or stun. Immune to guard break might be okay, but Yondu has very fast cooldowns on most of his skills, and he's got immunity, so it's not as important for him as it is for other characters. Moving on to his skills, Yondu has a pretty cool rotation that features a lot of movement and gunplay, especially with his uniform, which is the one I'm going to be talking about. Unfortunately, without his uniform, I find that Yondu does a lot of rooting, and he stands around for a lot of his animations, which makes him vulnerable to meteors, vulnerable to being attacked, and you know, just vulnerable to kind of taking damage, which is unfortunate because I really love his Guardians of the Galaxy uniform, and I love the way that they animated the like whistling arrow, whatever it's called, that he has. It looks just like it did in the movies, and I was so happy when they introduced him to the game, despite the fact that he sucked back then, because that animation was so cool. However, his all new, all different uniform is pretty high above the original uniform. It's a big step up, mainly because his second skill, Ravager Assault, has an iframe, and you can abuse that iframe in tandem with the 5th skill, Ravager Strike, to make Yondu very difficult to take damage and make him very extremely tanky, more so than a lot of other speed characters. And as well, he's got a 10% defense penetration on his 4-star passive, which is excellent because it helps you reach that 50% cap a lot faster. Overall, Yondu has great skills, and we're going to see them in action when we get to World Boss. However, his Tier 2 passive, as I said before, is pretty awful. I've only seen it used effectively or used in kind of an effective and successful way in Extreme Alliance battle. But other than that, it's pretty bad, and just the damage is not good, and it's just pales in comparison to a lot of other Tier 2 passives. As far as the ISO set goes, you want to go with something offensive, I think, especially if you have Yondu's uniform, because he can make himself immune with his 5th skill, and he can give you an iframe with his 2nd skill. So there's not a lot of moments where you're going to be taking a lot of hits as Yondu, but if you are the type of player who gets hit a lot and you find that your Yondu is very squishy, you want to go with a healing set rather than a bubble set, like an HP shield. You want to go instead with like I Am Also Groot or Stark Backing, because of the immunity on Yondu's 5th skill. That will interact with the HP bubble in an imperfect way, whereas you'll still get that HP proc if he's immune, and then you'll be able to continue healing and doing damage, and you won't negate your own effect by having the bubble and the immunity up at the same time. However, I strongly recommend an offensive set like Hawk's Eye, Power of Angry Hulk, or Overdrive, depending on if you need defense penetration, attack speed, or skill cooldown for one of those 3 sets, respectively. Moving on to World Boss, we're going to check out how Yondu fares against Supergiant, who's a fairly easy World Boss, but nevertheless, it'll let us showcase his skills and an ideal skill rotation for him. As far as team-ups go, Yondu does not have many. In fact, he's one of the worst characters as far as team-ups go. However, we are going to try and take advantage of the few team-ups that he has to give him a little bit of a boost. Not that he's going to need it that much against Supergiant. Unfortunately, there are no team-ups with Yondu that feature a leadership that's better than his for the crit rate, so we're just going to have to settle on this one. And for the strikers, we don't want anything too fancy because we want Yondu to do the heavy lifting, so we're just going to go with a classic 10% increase, not featuring any, you know, overpowered tier 2 characters or you know, best in slot tier 1 blast female robo bitches. As far as skill rotations go for Yondu, his 5th skill is the bread and butter because of the damage immunity for 2 seconds. Then his 2nd skill is second because it has an iframe in the second half of it. However, you do need to time that 2nd skill quite well because it does not have an iframe at the beginning and it's a delayed result. So if you don't set it up properly, you will be punished for it. As well, you can see that some of Yondu's skills are energy while others are physical, despite the fact that Yondu isn't as a physical damage or physical statted character. So you just need to be careful when you're relying on Yondu to break certain shields, whether it's Supergiant's energy shield or Black Dwarf's physical shield, because Yondu does have a pretty healthy mix of skills that are both energy based or energy dealing and physical dealing. So you just need to memorize those so you don't get caught up in a bad situation. As you can see, however, Yondu does massive damage with his attacks, and his 5th skill especially pretty handily takes care of problems and world bosses alike. So an ideal rotation would be something like the 5th skill into the 2nd skill, and then either into the 4th or 3rd skill, because there is movement in both of those, although there are no iframes in 4 and 3. 1 is pretty bad because it's just a jump kick that leaves him very close to the enemy after the animation is finished. So I would probably avoid using the 1st skill as much as I can, unless you know that you're absolutely not going to get punished by that. As far as game modes for using Yondu is concerned, he's, you know, decently or averagely successful at like special missions, story missions, daily missions, that kind of thing, villain siege. As you can see, he's a pretty good, I would say slightly above average world boss character, but that did take me more than a couple tries off video, so it's not like he can just go in and face roll it like characters such as Black Bolt tier 2 or Captain Marvel tier 2 can do because of their longer and more abusable immunity. As far as Shadowland, I think Yondu is an above average character. As a speed hero, he allows himself to do really well, especially in Blast Rumbles, where he can use his immunity to avoid CC from Songbird. He can deal a lot of damage to multiple enemies at the same time, and in general, he deals quite a bit of damage with his skills, which also makes him very good for any of the blast relays with Iron Man and Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon. I've had success with my tier 1 Yondu as high as, let's say, level 9 or level 10 of Shadowlands, so I'm sure that with his tier 2 I could probably push that maybe into the low teens, which is not bad at all. So he is a pretty useful character for Shadowlands, but I wouldn't say he marks too high above average in that regard. As far as timeline, he's probably not very usable given the current meta, but he does shine particularly well in Alliance battle. We have already gotten videos recently of Yondu clearing 100,000 comfortably at tier 2 against the speed hero Extreme Day, and so I think for a lot of people Yondu has become the go-to, if he wasn't already, for Extreme Alliance Speed Hero Day, and for that reason he takes a big jump ahead of a lot of other speed characters and ahead of a lot of other characters in general because the speed class is so weak, and he arrives pretty high on a list of characters to tier 2 if you've already got your stable of heroes and you're already clearing world boss 5 out of 5. I wouldn't say that Yondu is a must tier 2 or he's even like a high priority tier 2, but he is someone to think about, especially if you want to upgrade your Extreme Alliance battle scores, if you like playing with Yondu, if you've invested in his uniform, and you enjoy his really cool animations. Finally, where you can farm Yondu, unfortunately, is only in Dimension Rifts, which as the updates keep rolling in become less and less appealing to people. But if you do have someone in your alliance who is of a high VIP level and they can open Yondu Rifts for you consistently, that's probably the best way to farm for his bios. As well, you can use a mega rank up ticket, you can use bio selectors on him and the daily speed selectors if you do happen to get one, and probabilities say you'll get one pretty often. So that's how you can get Yondu's bios if you want to get him higher as tier 1 in his gears, or if you want to get him to that illustrious tier 2 rank. So that's going to be it for the review of Yondu. Let me know what you guys think of Yondu. Let me know if you have him tier 2 and what you think of this new review format, because I did update it for you guys. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.